So I guess this guy calls himself the prison doctor. He tries to do some kind of prevention program with a lot of young people to try to keep them out of prison. Sometimes it's therapy, sometimes it's meeting with the parents, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a young man who's complaining about his mother's behavior and kind of explaining how it's messing him up.
She's the first person to not discipline you like a normal parent would.
You're saying she's provoking you.
Repeatedly. And it's to the point where it's like, what else am I supposed to do when I'm trying my best to stay calm and she's continuously trying to get you to where she's already at? And she wakes up and she's having a bad day.
Nigga, you gonna have a bad day. Did I just catch you trying to be happy? Bitch, not my house. That's the energy.
I understand this kid. I really do. That's sometimes in Caribbean household, the only thing that's you cannot. They hate when you're just not doing anything and you're chilling. They hate that. Your parents, they hate that. They gotta stress you out. Ooh, I understand the sentiment.
Any minor inconvenience, she will make the most out of it. She can never be positive when she's having a bad day. Ever. She can never. If one thing in her day goes bad, it's just she has to make it all bad for everybody else. It's a consistent thing. And just the way she treats not even me. The way she treats my siblings, all that stuff, it's ridiculous. And the way she talks to my dad too. My dad isn't perfect at all, but he's changed a lot.
Yeah, or her, or value. That hurt him. He said that, because that's when he broke down. And I can, in the way he changed his voice, I can show you. When he said that his friend died and a dog died and something else happened, he says whenever he's going through a bad day or he's going through something out there or whatever he's dealing with, he don't feel he can come talk to you about it. And then when he does talk to you about little things or whatever has happened, he doesn't get that same kind of like concern or that love or that coddling. Again, he's a child. He's 16, but he ain't grown. He's still a baby. He's 16. He's a kid. So they still be needing that attention, particularly from their mom. So if he's in an environment where he's seeing dad and mom argue, fight, he's seeing hostility and things going on, and then he's dealing with his own personal struggles out in the world, and then he's dealing with some other stuff mentally, and he's struggling like that, that's a lot.
You can see the kid shaking over there. You can see him sniffling. Some tears were shed. The mother in the video here definitely needs to start tuning in, because I understand that you might be bitter and resentful, but that's your job to manage that. And putting it down on your kids is one of the most unfair things, because you steal their sense of home away from them. That's why these little kids want to be outside all day long. And there's being outside because you go to the park, and there's being outside because you don't want to go home. Those are not the same. And I know kids like that even when I was growing up. Some kids didn't want to go home to avoid the beatings. Why? Because an angry parent, sometimes they just walk around looking for something to hit. The more time, the more opportunities for you to get hit. So it's just like,
I want to avoid the nagging.
Right.
The nagging is, I think, because you're saying that, I started laughing because you said, I get triggered when a woman is nagging. I got triggered. I'm like, oh, you used to?
Used to, yeah. I don't.
I still do. I get triggered, but I leave. I'm like, okay, yeah, all right, we're not doing this.
You know, you just learn certain things over time. You're like, okay, you know, sometimes nagging is just the way the person's voicing the frustration with the fact that you're just not hearing them. And so the repetition is all they know to like try to get the point across. You have to be understanding of that, because sometimes you deserve to be nagged. I'm sorry.
Sure.
You know, so it's just like, I'm not saying I love nagging or what now. You know what I mean?
You love it.
Love. But it's just, I've mellowed out so much since I've like worked through a lot of this shit, and it's a lot easier for me to manage. My childhood used to be a big problem for me before. Now I'm straight. I'm chilling. But I used to be gay. And
Yeah, we know that.
That's why I moved out at 16, because I wanted home.
That little
I wanted a home.
that leg shaking, I know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that sentiment is close to home.
Yeah. I mean,
it was home.
The fact that he could even say this shit in front of another person,
The
in
way
front of
he
his
is,
parents.
the way he's articulated.
But his parents are right there. His
Yes.
mom is there. The fact that he could, I couldn't imagine have said that to anybody, in front of anyone at any point in my life. I could have never, I couldn't talk to my mom about anything till I was like 25, 26. And I'd already moved out for 8 years by that point. So it already shows to you how much progress we've made, where a kid can even feel comfortable enough to say a lot of this stuff in front of their parents. Just saying. Again, standards are here. Parenting is like this, but the standards is shot up, bro.
Yeah, sure.
Moms can be horrible. They can influence you in the worst ways. They can shape you incorrectly and really set you down a bad path. And that's a real part of parenting. That's a real part of parenting. Oftentimes we talk about fathers and this and that, and I agree. But, you know, mothers, they can play that role too.
Mm-hmm. Parents do that sometimes. Mm-hmm. Stress you the out for nothing. It's like, what's wrong? Like, sometimes you try to figure out what's wrong with your parents, and you're like, yo, what did I even do? Start to question yourself. Is it me? They on the second floor. There's the first floor, which is the ground floor. There's the second floor where the bedroom at. My bedroom is in the basement. 9 a.m. She wakes up for a room and start banging on my door and passing the vacuum. Mind you, she never passes the vacuum in the basement. I do. Acting like it's dirty and everything and stuff. Open up my door, screaming in my... I laugh. Of course I laugh. It's not my house. And it will remind you that it's not your house. You need to get the fuck out. This is what happening since... Well, I know why it was happening. It was happening because I disappointed in school. I was not... I that's what I believe. I believe that I was not my sister. My sister, she skipped a grade. I got left back. And the disappointment ensued and continued. Like, I couldn't do anything right and everything and stuff. It was more than that. It's just that the culmination was I was 23 when I was able to get a car. But before that, it's like you finish your whole day of track and field, your whole day of school, another practice of track and field. You go back home, you're tired, you're hungry. Mom wants to nag you about some bullshit. You ask her, please stop doing that because I'm not in the mood. Still nag you and you go, stop. God forbid that I be chilling on the couch on a Saturday, not doing it. God forbid. I'm 12 years old. My room is clean. God forbid that I just have my leg crossed on the couch. Yelling for what? Why are you yelling about?
You know, this is actually one of those interesting things because I think it pertains a lot to like immigrants specifically. But, you know, this is also part of that immigrant equation that people don't like to talk about. It's like people glorify immigrant life, but this is also a byproduct of that. You can't question your parents. You can't question the way they parent. You just have to be grateful, right? Like when you guys always talk about how the West is bad and you guys talk about how great immigrant, you know, like your native countries are, whatever, this parenting style is also part of that. You're not allowed to question them. You're not supposed to have open conversations with your parents. If I go back to my native country, if I go back to Ethiopia, you think people have real conversations with their parents about everyday life and their problems? I want it for that kid to be able to go, like he's stressing about somebody passed away, to be able to go talk to his parents, cry in front of them as the son and do all this stuff. But I just want to take a second to appreciate that people who want that and feel like that should be the standard is not the standard back home.
No, it's not. It is not. And I gotta give my parents some flowers because I was able to have at least a little bit of a conversation. But how much was I able to talk during that conversation? How much was I listened to and understood in that conversations? That's another story. But at least there was much more of a door. Yeah, I was able to put my thoughts out there, whether I was being listened to or not. That's different. And you look at it and you're like, that was not cool. Mm-hmm. Oh man, we laugh, and we always laugh about that. We laugh about that trauma of getting beat and stuff like that, right? We always laugh about that, but that's not cool.
The parent that this guy's describing, I had at times 100. It was even worse, and that's why I moved out when I was 16. I was 16 going on 17. I moved out. My mom was like, I'm leaving. You can't. I'm gone. I'll have a part-time job. I'm not staying. And like, you know, the resentment that builds, like, I understand it completely. I could talk about it pretty openly today, very easily, not upset, nothing. Mostly because, like, me and my mom talked about it. We've figured it out. We've moved past it. She's changed tremendously. She's grown. So, like, me and my mom chilling now. We're really good friends. But at the time, I told her, like, yo, you was like an average mom. I'll be honest with you. Like, you weren't very good. But I also understood how I could forgive her because, one, I got to talk to her about it. But two, I didn't make excuses for her, but I did understand. Like, you as a child, your job is not to make excuses for your parents' bad parenting, right? You can understand it because there is a reason. They learned from their parents, who weren't very good parents either. And the truth is, our standards for parenting have far surpassed the learning curve. Meaning, all these new ideas about how people should parent, the kind of openness they should have, these are all relative new concepts, and the parents haven't had time to catch up. So when you see a lot of shitty parents, vast majority of them learned it from someone before, and it was the standard. That's why we say oftentimes, like, I can see myself in this kid's experience because I had like a lot of parents go through the same thing because they all learned from the generation before. And there's no manual on parenting. I mean, there is now, but there wasn't when they was coming through. So they just learn generationally because you'll see it. And you know what's funny too? Your parent, as bad as they are, if you go check your grandparents, they were worse. So your parents are generally a toned down version of the bad habits your grandparents inflicted. Like, I knew a kid who used to get beat by his dad. And when he had a conversation with his dad later on, he said, "Do you know how bad your grandpa used to beat me?" It was and I'm not saying this makes it okay. Again, it's just to understand the psychology about it. Where does this come from? Where does this parenting style come from? It's like, oh, okay. And like when I looked at my mom, it's like, I understand, she's an 18-year-old, had very little to no moral support system, brought to this country, left to fend for herself in a lot of ways. My dad was involved in a lot of times, but they had their issues between each other. And here she is, doesn't speak the language super well, working 2-3 jobs, trying to buy this house, trying to raise these kids. And also the part that we never talked about at the time is like, she's resentful. That idea of no one else can be happy around me is resentment. Resentment that you don't treat about where your life has gone, what things that you've had to do, where you are and how unhappy you are with everyday life. So then you see your offsprings happy, oblivious to what you've been through because you can't talk to them about it. Because who's going to talk to a child about infidelity? Who's going to talk to a child about war-torn countries and the realities of that? Or having to there's so many things. And so me hearing this kid's experience, I get it. 1,000%. And that does negatively impact you and set you on a bad path. And every kid should have access to, parents who are able to listen to them when they're going through difficult things and be open to them. But knowing that and like understanding everything, I think the only thing you could do after the fact, if you just didn't have that in your childhood, is to hope that one day when your parent is willing to acknowledge some of the harm they've done, and then 2, willing to have that conversation with you. There's 2 things you have to do, right? And I think immigrant kids do 2 things. Either they make excuses for their parents all the time and then accept all the nasty shit that they do, or they resent them and then they basically just live with that resentment forever. I think neither of those things are good. It's not good to make excuses for them because they never have a chance to learn. They never have a chance to realize how wrong they are in some of their things. And then I also don't think it's good to just full on resent them forever because you hold on to that forever and you're never going to have that relationship with them. And maybe that's for the best in some situations. I'm not going to speak on everyone's parenting situation.
Yeah, you was talking, I was realizing, oh yeah, I'm a bit of a jackass. My mom said exactly that. I was like, telling her, you did this, you did that, you did that. She's like, you know how bad I got it? I'm like, okay, and your parents got it bad too. So what are we talking about? I'm talking about you and me. I understand that you live whatever the hell you lived, but I'm talking about this right here. And you live in that, you tone it down, it's cute, but it's not cute. I lived that. I didn't live what you lived. I'm sorry you lived that, but no, that's what we're talking about. That does not excuse the fact. It doesn't add to the conversation. Yeah, I understand where you're from. I understand all that, but yeah, no. Let's talk about what you did.
You don't think it excuses it?
No, it doesn't excuse it. It explains it. It brings context to it, but it's not a reason. It's actually the reason, but it's not. It's the cause, but not like, oh yeah, you should. No, you did that. You got to take accountability for your actions. For example, if you have a problem in your relationship, right? You don't communicate well, and you're starting to have a conversation with your partner, and your partner is pointing out, oh, there's that you do, and your answer is, yeah, but that's because I was brought up that way. Yeah, cool, whatever, fix it.
Yeah, but here is informed by your lived experience. If you grow up only seeing sets of examples and that's all you know, expecting someone to do a 180 and be something completely different is not reasonable either. Progress is slow. You have to have that kind of grace. That's what I mean when I say our standards have far exceeded what were expectations of what reasonable change is.
I'm not even trying them to do a full on 180. They cannot raise me again. That time is gone. We're just talking about the, hey, you did that. That happened. Stop denying the fact that it happened, or they either do 2 things. When you bring something up, they either deny the fact that it happened because they forgot. Parents will forget sometimes how they did what they did. I never did that. My mom told me I never beat you. I had to look at my sister. I was like, what the fuck is going on? What the fuck? Me? Never. What? Or whenever they don't forget and they remember what they did, they dodge it or they bring it. Oh, it's because of, hey, yes. Bring it back here. We're going to talk about this. Because what you live, I unfortunately can't understand, do nothing about that. I remember we did a video back then. And I said, one thing that you could do is forgive your parents. You don't have to do it. I'm not in a situation. But one thing that helps you is forgive your parents, right, for what they did.
When you say forgive, what do you mean? Just so they understand.
For example, the actions, the beating, the stuff that they did that was not really rational, that you didn't understand at that time, you can forgive them about that. Like you said, they were learning.
Well, why should you forgive them?
Because they were learning to be a parent at the same time as you was learning to be a kid. Because they depending on the situation, of course. And I'm talking about the light stuff, not the heavy stuff where, court is involved and everything and stuff. But the light stuff is like, they didn't necessarily understand all the ramifications of everything, and because of the way they was raised, you're like, all right, you know what, I understand, because you understand the context of how you was raised, what you escaped to be here. If I'm talking about racism here, they had it way worse. I can understand that, and while they were living that, they were raising me, so of course it was an X amount of pressure upon them, which I understand that. And if I transpose myself and I put a little bit of sympathy, transpose myself in your shoes, it would have been a lot for me as well. My mom was like, you don't have to forgive me for nothing. I'm like, okay, sit down. And we had a whole ass conversation. No, you don't have to. We were good parents. I'm not saying that, but you were not perfect.
Okay, maybe I'm gonna play your parents' advocate here.
Yes, of course you are.
What if I told you your parents were the best parents to come out of the Haitian diaspora? Would you say it's still not good enough?
No, that's not what I would say. No, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that it was not good enough. It was good enough because thanks to them, I am where I am at. There's some flaws. I'm not saying, yes, it was not perfect. It was the best parents. Some of the best parents that came out of the Haitian diaspora, 100%. I acknowledge that. I know that. It's not so much like I shit on my parents every time I see them. I acknowledge the good thing that they do. Oh, remember those things? Yeah, I know some of my friends didn't have that. You have to acknowledge everything. I'm not just shitting on my parents every day. And I do understand that, but it's not perfect. No, it's not supposed to be. But if there's something that hurts you, you gotta tell them. If there's some shit that they did, you gotta tell them. Yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect. No, but this happened. I don't have ill against my parents. I'm chilling with them. I'm cool with them. You've seen me with my parents, and you're still to this day amazed at how I talk to my parents. You're like, yo, shit, nigga, I could never have the conversation that you're having with your parents. That's something that is foreign to me. So it's not like I shit on my parents every day. We laugh. We say some dumb shit most of the time. I go to see my parents most of the time. Me, my sister, most of the time, it's some dumb shit.
I think there's two almost like irreconcilable truths about children and parenting. All kids deserve a loving and open home, and vast majority of parents are unequipped to provide that, or at least that was the case in previous generations.
Sure.
So on one hand, you gotta acknowledge that people were never given the tools for a lot of the stuff that people are wanting, and kids do deserve that. So how do you manage these two things? I don't know. I don't know the answer. I think it's tough because, again, this comes back to what I said before, which is our standards for what parents should be doing has just shot through the roof with social media and this last 20 years. But have parents is learning and all these things count? I don't think so. I don't even think it's close. And with that in mind, it's like, how do you give grace whilst also acknowledging that on the other side of that grace is a child who may have been neglected in a lot of ways that are important? I don't know. It's not an easy answer. I think you forgive your parents not because you make them feel good about what they do. You don't even have to forgive them by talking to them. You can forgive them by yourself. Forgiving them, to me, is one, acknowledging what they did to you that was harmful, which is important because a lot of kids don't even want to do that. And then secondly, it lets you let go of that resentment, because I know some kids who just grow up resenting their parents forever and they hold on to that negative emotions, and it feeds to even how they end up parenting.
And then they become exactly what they resent.
Or worse, they try to become the opposite. Either way, you're kind of governed by your past experience. Either you become that or you try to become the opposite of that as much as possible. I had the same thing for a long time. I used to get triggered when I heard nagging. Like, if a woman nagged me, I'd lose my fucking mind. And it's like, sometimes folks might nag you in minor ways, and it's not crazy. But I used to not be able to manage that at all. That was me doing the opposite of what my mom did to me, right? And there's other little things like that from my father or whatever, where it's just wasn't good. I thought this was a good video, and I hope, this family figures it out. But anyone watching at home, your kids are not your emotional punching bag. They are not your emotional sponge either. You have a responsibility to protect them. If you're not feeling great, that doesn't mean you got to come home and pretend to be happy. But it does mean that you should have a responsibility to not make your feelings everyone else's feelings. To not steal their happiness because you're unhappy. To not steal their moments because you're not enjoying your moments or your period in life. That's theirs.
Yes.
So that's what I'll say.
You don't get to unload on your kids because your shit is...
No. But I mean, listen, it was a good discussion. Maybe you guys disagree on parts. Maybe you feel like we should be less forgiving of bad parenting and stuff like that. And look, I say bad parenting, it's a spectrum, right? Like, I don't think we should have that much grace with people beating their kids and all this other shit. But it is important. It's important to really understand especially for the immigrants watching, go talk to your parents. Oh, how about that? No. Go talk to your parents and have some candid conversations about their parents and what they learned.
Yes.
And you're going to probably get a good history lesson on some fucked up shit.
Yes.
That's if they're even open enough to talk to you. Because most parents I know who are immigrants would never tell you the truth. How many times is you niggas getting older? And only as you get older, you're like, oh, that's why this uncle's in prison, or that's why we don't talk to this person, or they hide so much, and they do it to protect you. And I understand to a degree, but it's actually bad because it doesn't let you really see the environment that's shaping them. It's actually one of the worst parts of it. They hide so much, and there's so much. Like, maybe y'all different.
What I hate about that shit, the shit that you just said, just to believe on that, is whenever they hide so much shit about the family to you. And then you talk to such and such person, and then you tell them, you're like, you spoke to that person, and like,
was I not
what do
supposed
you
to?
mean I'm not supposed to? We don't talk to that person. I'm like, well, I'm not gonna know if you don't tell me, lady. Yeah. And then I'm out there looking like a fool because whatever exchange I had with the person was kind of awkward, and I was wondering why. You hide so much shit.
Whew. I'm in the same boat. But yes, let us know what y'all think in the comments.
Let's roll.
Bisous.